Well, I think they deserve to hear a lot more from Kamala Harris because she's been lying to them for the last 3 months. If you look at her record, she's been trying to run away from it from the very moment she took the nomination from Joe Biden. She wants to ban gas-powered cars. She wants to give reparations based on race. She wants to ban fracking. She wants to take away private health insurance on the job. These are not positions that she took as a teenager in high school. These are positions she took as a 54-year-old woman running for president in her own right. That's the true Kamala Harris, a weak, dangerous San Francisco liberal.
Kamala Harris insists she's prepared to take on the role of commander-in-chief, but her track record tells a different story. That's exactly why Senator Tom Cotton tore into her on Face the Nation. In this video, we're diving into the clips and breaking it all down. To kick things off, let's talk about one of the biggest headlines this week, the escalating threat from Iran. We've already seen assassination attempts targeting former President Trump, and it's all tied back to weak and indecisive leadership. Let's take a look.
You sit on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Is there an alarm sounding in your ranks about any potential threats to Americans in the Middle East or to U.S. targets at this point?
Well, from the minute Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got to the White House, there's been threats to Americans. Iran and its proxies have attacked our troops over 100 times, and we've barely ever struck back. There's been continued attacks on us. Again, just like we should support Israel in striking back against these terrorists, we should be striking back harder again. But that's not Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's policy. From the very beginning, they've appeased and conciliated the Ayatollahs. Kamala Harris, for instance, opposed Donald Trump's strike that killed Iran's terrorist mastermind in 2020. Over the last 4 years, they've given away tens of billions of dollars in sanctions relief. They've looked the other way as Iran violates sanctions. They've continually put more pressure on Israel than they put on Iran's terrorist proxy. That's why Kamala Harris is the Ayatollah's handpicked candidate, and why the Ayatollahs are hacking into Donald Trump's campaign and trying to kill him.
The more I look into the situation with Iran, it's clear that there are three major factors driving the surge in threats against America, our troops, and even former President Trump. First up is the Afghanistan withdrawal. On the global stage, it was nothing short of humiliating. What message does that send to our adversaries? It's a blatant signal of weakness. And what did we follow that up with? Sanction relief. From what I found, around $16 billion in assets were released. We don't know exactly where that money is going, but Iran has stated they can use it however they see fit, which likely means funding their terror networks. Second, the significant reduction in our military presence in the Middle East under Joe Biden's administration. Our troop numbers were slashed in half, from over 5,000 to just around 2,500. As a result, attacks from Iranian-backed militias on U.S. forces surged by 50%. And finally, to top it all off, there's been virtually no meaningful retaliation. From 2021 to 2023, there have been over 80 attacks on U.S. military forces, according to the Pentagon. And how many strong retaliations did we respond with? Only 3. So what does that say about our standing on the world stage when our enemies feel emboldened enough to act out like this? What kind of message are we sending? Yet somehow, voters are expected to believe Kamala Harris will step in and make a difference. Come on, give me a break.
Turning to Ukraine, former President Donald Trump, you're a big supporter of his. He met with President Zelensky in recent days in New York. He talked about a potential deal to end the war. What kind of deal would that be? How would it exactly look? You're close to Trump and this process.
Well, he hasn't been specific, and I think that's for a reason. One, he doesn't know what the world is going to look like in another 3 months when he takes office. He doesn't know how much more Joe Biden and Kamala Harris might screw things up. But here's what we do know. This never would have happened on Donald Trump's watch because it didn't happen on Donald Trump's watch. Vladimir Putin has invaded Ukraine twice, both times with Joe Biden in the White House. First as Barack Obama's understudy, second with Kamala Harris in the White House with him. That came just a few months after the disastrous collapse in Afghanistan. Those things are not unrelated. When you project weakness, as Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have, and you suggest to your enemies that they can push you around and walk all over you, you get the kind of conflicts we see in Europe and that we see in Israel, and you get the chaos we see at our southern border.
He couldn't have been clearer. This is the kind of information voters need to hear more of when it comes to Kamala Harris. Say what you will about Trump, whether you hate him or think he's too blunt, but you can't deny the results. When it comes to foreign policy, Kamala Harris has shown nothing but weakness. She's been right there alongside Joe Biden, and together, they've projected a weak image. What's often overlooked is just how unstable the Middle East has become under their watch. Some might ask, why should we care? Because it could lead to nuclear conflict or escalation that draws in our allies, ultimately affecting us negatively. One way or another, it'll hit closer to home than most people realize. The best approach is to prevent it from happening in the first place. And the only way to achieve that is through strength. Peace through strength. You need solid agreements, just like the peace deals Trump was able to broker. That's why these kinds of issues never escalated under his leadership.
Donald Trump has said he's not going to negotiate against himself or against Ukraine in advance. Once he takes office, that's the time to start hammering out the details in private and to make sure that something like this can't happen again, which didn't happen when he was president after the first invasion of Ukraine. But again, I just want to say the chaos that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have unleashed across this world isn't limited to the other side of the world. It happens right here. The administration just acknowledged that they released more than 13,000 convicted murderers who illegally entered this country, more than 15,000 convicted sex offenders. That's 28,000 rapists and murderers who illegally entered our country, who Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have let roam our streets. That's the kind of chaos that they have unleashed for the last 4 years and that Donald Trump will put an end to.
If you're watching this video as an undecided voter, I have a question for you. What kind of chaos are you willing to tolerate? If we buy into the corporate media's narrative, you have to choose between different forms of chaos. Are you okay with the chaos happening in the Middle East, the escalating crisis at our southern border, and small towns turning into sanctuary cities due to increased illegal migration that brings in criminals, gangs, and violence? Or would you rather deal with the media's relentless back and forth drama with Donald Trump? Which one do you think will actually impact your community more? This is why I say the results speak for themselves and contradict everything the administration has claimed over the past 3.5 years. Remember when they said the border is secure? Well, the facts now show we never had a secure border. So Kamala Harris, what does that make you? A liar. That's exactly what Tom Cotton is pointing out. Harris knows these numbers don't back up her claims of being tough on immigration, and she's aware that voters aren't buying into her narrative about the so-called opportunity economy. Polls show that the only issue where voters somewhat trust her is on abortion. Everything else, Trump is leading. That's why she's so desperate to get a second debate. And Tom Cotton didn't hold back on that point either.
Former President Trump, even though there are just a few weeks left in the campaign, has so far said he does not want to participate in another debate with Vice President Harris. Is that a mistake? Do the American people deserve to hear more from former President Trump and the Vice President about their views?
Well, I think they deserve to hear a lot more from Kamala Harris because she's been lying to them for the last 3 months. If you look at her record, she's been trying to run away from it from the very moment she took the nomination from Joe Biden. She wants to ban gas-powered cars. She wants to give reparations based on race. She wants to ban fracking. She wants to take away private health insurance on the job. These are not positions that she took as a teenager in high school. These are positions she took as a 54-year-old woman running for president in her own right. That's the true Kamala Harris, a weak, dangerous San Francisco liberal. Kamala Harris is the one who owes the American people a lot more answers. Donald Trump can simply point at his record and say, for 4 years when I was president, we had peace, prosperity, a secure border, and we were respected around the world. That's what the American people remember. That's what they're going to get when they elect him again to the White House.
But should Trump debate again?
He's already debated twice.
Okay.
And JD is going to debate Tim, and he's going to do a great job telling his story and pointing out what a radical record Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have. The American people know what Donald Trump will do in office. Kamala Harris is still trying to fool.
If you're enjoying this video so far, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get down to the key takeaways from this video. First, America's foreign policy has been incredibly weak, and our adversaries are taking full advantage of it. That's why we're seeing an escalation of threats, not just towards America, but also our military forces overseas. Look at Vladimir Putin. He invaded Ukraine twice, both times with Joe Biden in the White House. First under Obama, and now again with Biden as president. So what does that say about the difference between Democrat and Republican foreign policy strategies? The results speak for themselves. Second, on issues like Ukraine, ISIS, and overall foreign policy, Kamala Harris isn't ready to be the commander-in-chief. Her record doesn't support it. It's delusional to think otherwise. Meanwhile, the media wants to know Trump's foreign policy plans before he's even elected, which is unrealistic. Trump's strategy is straightforward. Those wars will be wrapped up if he becomes president. That's what the people care about. Lastly, we know Kamala Harris's track record. She's been part of a highly progressive administration, too progressive for even moderate Democrats, which is why Biden's approval ratings have dipped. They've failed on the economy, immigration, and foreign policy. Despite all this, Harris continues to align herself with Biden, pushing the same narrative, but with little to show for it. It's smoke and mirrors. She's running against an opponent who has already proven his leadership. Trump's record shows he achieved results that benefited America, unlike what we're seeing now. So once again, kudos to Senator Tom Cotton for breaking it all down and making the choice crystal clear in this election. That's my take. What's yours? What did you think of Tom Cotton's performance? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.